It is 8:09 Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards, as we do every single Wednesday. It is a segment we like to call Arrows Up, and this will be very interesting because of the controversy from going back to, I believe it was March 4th, when Tom Van Horne came into studio and was all bragging about how much better he was than Josh, and he's the best twin. And
That's true.
He's the best looking one, and he got all the girls. Well, I got to tell you, it sounded a little thick to me at the time. Josh, what do you think? Is that fair, or was he?
As you can tell, no, I think he's pretty bang on. As you can tell, he's a lot better looking than I am. Good looking guy.
JVH, great to have you on the show.
Good morning.
This morning. Yeah,
and, morning, guys.
And also, you should know that Dave's brother Mike, because on the show it's nothing but Dave and Mike's. My brother's Dave. Like it's just it's a weird thing. But Dave's brother is a fighter as well. Now you're a firefighter in what town are you a firefighter in?
In Brantford, Ontario.
In Brantford, Ontario. So.
Yeah.
Now, so you're still on schedule then, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm heading in about a half an hour. I got to be there for 9 o'clock.
Oh,
so
very good.
This has, and again, when we have all your teammates on, we talk about, it's hard not to talk about how great the season started off with, but it also, when in looking at that record and what you achieved, it seemed to be the expectation of this team. I mean, the expectations on this team are pretty high.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our staff, our players worked really hard to build a culture of that leads to success, and definitely had our hopes set high for the rest of the season. But I think with the short time we had, we got a lot accomplished, and we set the path up well for us for 2021. So looking forward to coming back, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Josh, thanks for everything you do as a first responder. You guys are, triple thumbs up for me, let me tell you, and everything that everybody does, especially at times like this, but not only like times like this, just in general. So thank you. I wanted to ask you, where does the love for rugby start? I'm guessing you probably had a pair of skates on first, because that's kind of how us Canadians work.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your story?
Yeah, you're not too far off. Definitely the skates and the baseball cleats, all that football started before rugby. I found rugby pretty late. 17 years old in high school, my friends were playing, and that's really where it kind of starts and stops for me, is just the friends and the culture that we built. I mentioned at the Arrows is so strong, and it's so intertwined with your personal life, professional life. You can really get along with the guys, and you can lean on them for anything, and that's really what that's my draw to the game. But the camaraderie, it's been a common theme. People come on here and talk about how important that is in all sports, but especially in rugby, you feel that's a little bit at a higher level, and that's pretty much where I get my fix from, is getting involved with the guys. And the ball is nice, playing around, getting the fitness in is for sure good, but I absolutely just like to get out and hang out with some pretty awesome individuals. That's my big draw.
Did you play somewhere collegiately as well?
Yeah, I played at the University of Guelph. I'm a very proud Guelph Griffin alumni. My brother obviously went there as well, and there's a few guys on the current Toronto Arrows team that are affiliated with the University of Guelph in some way. Corey Hector was a coach there. Got guys like Marcello Wainwright, Riley DiNardo, myself, my brother, Colby Francis. Lots of Guelph Griffins back there, so we can talk about our local pubs and all the spots back in the day we used to hit. The classroom obviously as well.
Well, it's interesting too, because the more that we find out, and again, it's been a process for Dave and myself as well, which, we really hope that people that watch this segment, that listen to the show, that listen to the radio station, start to understand, the culture of rugby is not new in this province. It really isn't. And the more that you sort of peel it back, you realize that it's a very loyal following when it comes to this sport. And it starts at, a lot of there's a lot of club rugby that's been going on, at least for me. My reference, as I always say, back in Stouffville was, back to the 70s, where, Fletcher's Field and up in Gormley, and where, the Toronto Barbarians or the Scarborough Barbarians, and going back. And it has just reached a level where, quite honestly, and I do talk about this, that the popularity of it, as people sort of grasp onto it, I see Major League Rugby being, to a degree, very similar to Major League Soccer and how that was built. Because when soccer, at the Major League and international level here in North America, you usually had to be the kid of like a first generation, either European, so it was either English, Scottish, is it Irish? In soccer, it was the same thing. It was Italian, a lot of Greeks, a lot like that. That's what now it's not. Major League Soccer in this country is where you're from. If you're from Salt Lake City, you watch it because that's the team in Salt Lake. I really believe that this continues along this line, Josh, and it's been a lot of hard work, Mark Winokur, and Bill Webb, and with the Ontario Blues and that foundation, as we see, I think it's Dallas and then Los Angeles also getting in. When I hear names like that, that just reeks of success. That reeks of a marketing and a future. And I really think that you're on the ground floor of something being probably pretty big.
Yeah, that's definitely the hope for where this league can go. I think there's definitely a very high ceiling, and you're bang on with where it comes from. Very humble beginnings, and I know I'm very proud to play for my local club in Brantford Harlequins here. We're one of the oldest clubs. We were the very first champion of Rugby Ontario in 1950, and we're actually the most recent champion as well. So very proud to represent the Brantford Harlequins. I'm intertwined within the club as well in terms of our executive and overall operations. And you're going to find that a very common trend throughout the guys that are within the Toronto Arrows. They're not just players; they're definitely advocates of the game, good ambassadors, and they like to get involved locally too, because we know that's the future. Like you said, it's grassroots, and bringing local talent up. Canadians is especially what we want to focus on and who we want to develop.
How have you been spending your time outside of working for the fire services? Because there is a unique schedule to a firefighter's world where you have to work a bunch of shifts in a row, but then you're kind of rewarded with some time off. How have you been treating those days off, considering we're in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, definitely. Professional life is business as usual. I get in there, and we've been really fortunate with our admin and our health and safety committee. They're keeping us all safe, and everything's going pretty much business as usual. Personally, I got to give a shout out to my fiance Alexis. We were supposed to get married April 25th, and we had to postpone it. So she's a Corona bride, as she calls it. So personally, I got a great setup back home, a great support network, and we're able to, again, keep things as normal as possible. I've got a nice golden retriever, some great walking trails out here in Brantford. We call it the Florida of the North, basically. So there's lots of good outdoor outings, that sort of thing. The weather's been great lately, but yeah. So personally, it's just normal as possible, just like everybody else, and staying safe. And then maybe talk Alexis off the ledge every now and again.
No, I almost hate to bring this up, but is she a Hessler girl or is she a Galt girl? Because that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, so she thinks she's better than you then, probably.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I don't blame her. Yeah. I don't blame her.
She's right.
Hey, the one thing, in the same thing with your brother, so there you're 6'5", 260 in there somewhere, something, and you're walking down the hallways at Guelph. Guelph is a very good football school as well.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that you don't get a tap on the shoulder. And like if it's me and in the football world, I'm tapping you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, son, have you ever thought about playing football, or do you play football?" That must have happened. It had to have happened.
Yeah. You know what? I think Tom and I used to go out there, and the football team would practice before the rugby team on the varsity field at University of Guelph, and we'd always grab a few footballs, and we'd be throwing like 40-yard bombs at each other. Corey Hector would always just give us a dirty look and say, "Go work on something else. Like, what are you guys doing?" type thing. But you know what? I think rugby definitely was the right choice for me. Absolutely.
Now, because again, being as good an athlete you are, and Dave will, if you're 6'5", 260 and you move great, right? That's the one thing. Offensive line, if you start pushing like towards the 300s, but with the speed that you have, which is going to be decent, I'm surprised. Like a defensive end or rush end at 6'5", 260. Boy, I'll tell you, that's.
I want to see Josh as a tight end.
You know what? I played tight end in high school and defensive end as well. But I think if we were doing some 4-down football, maybe tight ends would have more of a role. But anyway, it never really panned out for me. But I'm definitely a big football guy. I love the Lions, Detroit Lions. We get down 2 or 3 times a year, and I suffer through that. They haven't been, historically, since I've been alive, or really ever, they haven't really done so well.
True.
But, I definitely If I could play everything, you got to pick and choose. If I could play everything, though, I'd definitely be on the football field a little more.
Yeah.
We're in
Very
conversation with
cool.
Josh Van Horn here on Raw Mike Richards. It is Arrows Up. And so now, and again, this is, the sacrifice that you put into, being on that team, getting to that record. Was it 5-1 after the first 6 weeks on the
Uh,
road?
yeah, I think it was 4-1 actually. We had a bye week
Four and
mixed
one,
in there.
4-1.
So
You
yeah.
had a bye week.
Mhm.
So when you kind of have to restart, that's a mental thing, right? But the one thing about it, and this is what I thought was so interesting, is that whether it was Thomas de la Vega or any of the others that have come from a long way away, they wanted to stay in Toronto when this all came down. They wanted to stay. They wanted to play, which means it bodes well for a very good start when this season starts up again.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. We've been really fortunate to keep guys like Taylor Adams is still in the country. Um, Leandro, Tommy De La Vega, like you said, and those guys are again so important to our culture, and guys that have come in and they've played high level all over the world, you name it, and they're really bringing a lot of experience and expertise to us in the Canadian game. So that's really bode really well for again the culture we're trying to build. It's going to be another key theme here, but just the culture that we're trying to build. And you said it, the guys didn't want to stick around and enjoy some of this finally good Canadian weather. They've been putting up with the winter, so I think they deserve it to stick it out till June, July, whenever they play in States.
Hey, Josh, as far as travel is concerned in Major League Rugby, is there a favorite city that you like so far? Now that you've kind of had a little bit of a feel, I know that there's a couple expansion teams coming up that you guys will probably be really interested in traveling to next year. But what about so far as being a road team and heading somewhere? What's a cool location?
Yeah, there's definitely a few good ones out there. Seattle's really cool. Starfire Stadium does a really good job with as far as production and what they offer their fans. It's really close to BC Premier League is also another big hotbed for rugby in Ontario. So you get a lot of Canadian fans, Canadian supporters as well, and even the Seattle team has a lot of Canadian players. So it's very it's a bit of a close contest for us in terms of or like a local derby, you could call it. Like it's all the players know each other, is what I'm trying to say. Me personally, though, I'm kind of sad to see Glendale go from the league, but I like Colorado always. The elevation's a bit of a cool thing. The nightlife there is really fun as well, so that'd be my top choice. But there's definitely a lot out there, like you said. You're right.
We don't need another Raptors. I hate
no,
to be
you're right. You're right. Actually, you know what? Yeah, good call.
Well, as Dave said, Dallas, LA, San Diego was out there. I think Houston should rethink their nickname.
Yeah,
Not that look, I'm Irish, so I love the booze, but if I called them the Toronto Jamesons or the Tullamore Dews or something like that, but I just don't think you need to name a team after a cocktail, especially
that's right. Yeah,
when you get the crap kicked out of you.
That's right. Maybe a cocktail after a team. Yeah, exactly. I know. I'm definitely on the same page with you there.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here this morning, Josh. We think the world of you guys. Your teammates always speak well of each other. You're obviously very close and have a lot of fun, which is not easy to do. And the other thing too that I always think is great is that there you are from Hespeler. You go to school in Guelph. You're local in Brantford. With the fire department. So kids see you playing professional rugby, and that's what it takes to get grassroots going in a country. It doesn't. You can sit there and you could watch. Rugby union and watch them play it over in Ireland and Scotland or France, and it's really cool, but it's so far away that you don't really at any point think that you're going to be playing for the All Blacks or whatever. Like it just seems like so much of a pipe dream. Your generation has changed that. The Toronto Arrows is going to change that perception, and there's someone probably listening or watching, and they could be up in who knows where and say, you know what? I want to be like Josh Van Horn. I want to be like this player. You are on the ground floor of that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate those nice words. Definitely. I do agree with you, though. I think we won't be the last people from Brantford Harlequins coming out there. There's some really strong high school roots here with the Collegiate Institute, BCI, St. John's. There's some really, really strong players that are coming through. And I think you're right. Definitely just paving the way is what I'm fortunate to be doing. There's going to be more. Absolutely.
By the way, Harlequins, I saw good unis too. Those are nice
Oh
unis.
yeah, absolutely. I'm on the kid committee, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, very impressed. Well, look, you
Yeah,
take care, and hopefully very soon we'll get a chance to go and see on the pitch. That's the one thing that was really kind of crushing for Dave and myself. We get to know all you guys, and we were just dying to see you get out there and play, and hopefully everyone else will feel the same way. But there's no question you'll get off to another great start, and when you do, we'll be there.
awesome. Thanks a lot, Mike.
That is Josh Van Horne joining us here today from the Toronto Arrows, as we do Arrows Up every Wednesday. And once again, never fails to be one of our favorite segments. Just a tremendous job. And man, we look forward to our Toronto Arrows.